Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like, comment, and subscribe. That's if you love college football and you enjoy what we do here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Even if you disagree with me, if you enjoy the analysis from myself, the debate, the discussion, the conversation that we have with you in the live chats and the live streams, and then also bringing on the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the nation, then please, again, like, comment, and subscribe. And this, of course, is the center topic in college football. Once those initial college football playoff rankings were released last week, this is what just about everybody wants to talk about. It's the rankings and the scenarios playing forward. So I'm going to give you, by request, my prediction on the college football rankings for this week to be released on Tuesday night. Let's understand that this is not my personal top 25, which I released yesterday. My top 25 that actually makes sense. So let's first look at the rankings from last week. They are Alabama number 1, Clemson 2, LSU 3, Notre Dame at 4, Michigan 5. Georgia 6, Oklahoma 7, Washington State at 8, Kentucky at 9, and Ohio State number 10. Florida was 11, UCF 12, West Virginia 13, Penn State 14, Utah at 15, Iowa 16, Texas 17. Mississippi State at 18, Syracuse 19, Texas A&M at 20, North Carolina State at 21, BC at 22, Fresno State 23, Iowa State 24, and Virginia 25. Okay, I am not going to predict the rankings 1 through 25 because that's senseless. There are a number of teams, about half of those top 25 teams don't have a prayer, don't have a path to a college football playoff berth. I am selecting here 12 teams that still have a path to the college football playoff, a legitimate, reasonable path. I'm not talking about Rutgers beating Michigan and Alabama and Georgia losing to FCS teams. I'm talking about a reasonable, feasible path, even if it's that small, a reasonable, feasible path to the college football playoff. So I have 12 teams listed that I'm going to rank as a prediction of the college football rankings to be released on Tuesday. Also understand that I've got 2 teams here in particular that I don't believe have a reasonable path to the championship. That's because it's Kentucky and LSU who lost their division races to Alabama and Georgia last week. The reason I rank them and include them is because they're still ranked ahead of teams that still have a path. So understand, which many of you do, that there's a difference between being ranked highly and having a path to the championship. You could be number 8 in the country and be locked into your spot with no feasible way to get to the college football playoff because you can't win a division championship. You don't have any more difficult games to play against meaningful opponents. The situation Penn State was in last year after they lost to Ohio State and Michigan State is they were very highly ranked and regarded, but they had no path to the college football playoff. There were teams that were ranked below them that still had an opportunity based on the schedule and the standings in their conference. Ohio State, most famously in 2014, was number 16 in the initial rankings, but they still had a path to the championship as it played out. And Oklahoma the next year, number 15 in the initial rankings, still had a path to the championship. So I've got a couple teams here that no longer have a legitimate path, but they're still highly ranked because of their schedule and their record and conference and so forth. So this is my prediction of the top 12 because other than that, it doesn't much matter because these other teams don't have a path to the championship. So I'm not going to squabble over 25 versus 24 versus 23. All right, UCF's undefeated. They are number 12. Last week, UCF was number 12. They beat Temple. They should beat Temple. They gave up a ton of yardage. So, of course, the College Football Playoff Committee has told us conference championships matter. We don't have those yet. 13th data point matters. We don't have that yet. What matters are wins and losses, resume, track record, and then the eyeball test, the control of the game control, dominance, performance on the field. All right, so UCF did what it was supposed to do. They will stay at number 12. Kentucky goes from number 9 to 11. I thought they were a little lightly regarded at 9 considering what they had accomplished. I know that the performance on the field, the eyeball test, was not impressive offensively, but Kentucky in my predictions goes from 9 to 11. And I've got Kentucky still ranked at number 10 in my top 25. So they go to 11 here. They lost to Georgia, one of the best teams in the country, but they were out of the game by third quarter. So they didn't play well, but they did lose to one of the best teams in the country at home. Ohio State at number 10 struggled, but they won against Nebraska. That's pretty much not going to play in their favor, but at the same time, they did win and advance to a Michigan State game this week. I've got Ohio State at number 10 in my prediction. LSU at number 9. So they dropped from 3 to 9. They would have stayed relatively close, although the path has been taken from them to get to the SEC championship game. And with a second loss, that wipes out LSU. They would have been differently regarded had they lost that game 24-21. They got wiped out by Alabama 29-0. Therefore, I believe they're going to drop to number 9. Washington State at 8. I could see LSU still being ranked ahead of a Washington State team because, again, the Cougars did not play impressively against Cal. They had to score in the last 30 seconds to win the game at home against a decent Cal team at 5-4. So I could definitely see LSU at number 3 last week, staying ahead of Washington State, which was ranked number 8 last week. Okay. I believe that the College Football Playoff Selection Committee will move West Virginia all the way from 13 to 7. The win, in some respects, was not impressive. They had to win in the final 15 seconds of the game, 42-41 over Texas. But it was on the road against a quality opponent, and they got the job done impressively in regards to the comeback, beating Texas. So West Virginia, again, some people think that this is a stacked lineup in which you move teams based on who's in front of you and did they lose. That's not how it works. The College Football Playoff Selection Committee approaches this much in the same way that I do. I tear down the season each week and start over. So the resumes determine that a team can go from number 13 to 7 and leapfrog teams that won because the resume completely changes from week to week because they beat a quality opponent and the teams in front of them did not. Therefore, West Virginia, I believe, will vault from 13 to 7. Oklahoma at 6 goes from 7 to 6 because of the LSU loss. Georgia, Michigan. This is the other decision to be made. Very similar wins here. So Georgia was impressive. It was a decent game for about a half. They led at 7-3. They led 14-3 at the half. It was still somewhat of a game at 28-10, but not really. They pretty much dominated the second half. Michigan dominated Penn State pretty much from about the third or fourth series of the game on. So slightly more impressive performance, but Georgia did it on the road. We could argue who's better, Kentucky or Penn State. I think they're about the same. So I don't think it's going to be enough for Georgia to move past Michigan. I believe the Playoff Selection Committee will keep Georgia at 5, Michigan at 4. So they go from 6-5 to 5-4. And then the top 3 are pretty much in line, Notre Dame, Clemson, and Alabama. Notre Dame, of course, won that game against Northwestern. Was it impressive? No. They won by a touchdown. They won by 10 points. They had a 3-point lead as they allowed Northwestern to come back and cut a 21-7 game, a 24-7 game to 24-21. So Northwestern really pushed them in the final 5 minutes of the game, but Notre Dame closed it with a touchdown in the final 2.5 minutes. So they beat a good team on the road, but not impressively. Clemson beat a horrible team, the worst in the ACC, and just annihilated them. So to me, nothing changes there. They stay in order. The LSU loss moves Notre Dame to 3, Clemson at 2, and Alabama, of course, had the most impressive showing of the week. And I don't think we can move them higher than number 1. So, again, my prediction on the College Football Playoff selection on Tuesday night, UCF at 12, Kentucky 11, Ohio State 10, LSU 9, Washington State 8, West Virginia 7, Oklahoma 6. Top 5, I believe, will be Georgia, Michigan, Notre Dame at 3, Clemson number 2, and Alabama at the top. Again, my top 25, looking at the top 10, I've got Kentucky at 10 with Ohio State and UCF just outside the top 10. Then Washington State 9, LSU 8, West Virginia 7, Oklahoma 6, Georgia 5, Michigan 4, Notre Dame 3, Clemson 2, and Alabama 1. So I believe the College Football Playoff Selection Committee will pretty much do what they should and really look at the resumes and grind it down, as has been the case in the past. So I have been not that critical of their selections for the most part. I think they do a decent job from week to week, and I think they'll hit it pretty close to what I've got right there on Tuesday night. Would love to get your comments and also love your questions during the call-in shows on Saturday night in particular, and also Sunday morning on the various scenarios. So the scenarios are lessening, of course, as we get more and more game results in, and the number of factors and the number of options and opportunities are dwindling down, but they're still out there to see what kind of difficult decisions the playoff selection committee is going to have to make after the conference championship games the first week of December. Let's talk it up right here at the Voice of College Football, Mark Rogers TV.